So it is the 25th of October, 2022. Not far off from Halloween, and I'll mention why Halloween's important towards the end of the show. But this is all back to mine, and we're at episode 32, believe it or not. And if you're watching this back on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It's free. If you're listening back on Mixcloud, hit that follow button. If you're watching on Twitch at the moment, come join the conversation. Drop some comments or questions or whatever you want to do in the chat, and we'll get to them. But today, I've got someone who's we've been sort of linked up through the Twitch universe for a little bit of time now. He always plays amazing hip hop music. I love that, and lots of other styles as well. He's been a guest on Coffee and Donuts a few times, and we haven't had a face-to-face conversation or even a phone conversation. So it's going to be great to sort of catch up. We've already had a good little chat before we've got going, so I'm really looking forward to this. It is Air Adam, and here he is.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm really good. I'm almost at the point where I can press the button and it says like a cheer or something like that. I
Yeah.
can't do it with this mixer because my laptop, my streaming laptop is too old. But I've just bought a SP404 to do some beats. So I think in due course I will be able to just press a button and we'll have woo, yeah, all that sort of stuff going on. And then we're really getting professional once we get that going. But anyway, how you doing, Adam? Are you all right?
Yeah, really good. Yep, end of the day, looking forward to the chat. Got somebody covering my emergency roster at work for the next couple of hours so that I know I can speak uninterrupted. Good times.
I know. We've got Lovely Cake already.
Hey, shout out Lovely Cake, aka the Sheriff.
Yeah, that's
Super
cool.
mod.
Adam is a great DJ. Well, we were talking about mods just off air a few minutes ago, and we will be talking about mods and how important they are to all streamers when we get there. But before we get there, I always like to take my guests right back to the very beginning. Hello, Dave's cunning plan as well. Always like to get my guests right back to the beginning because I'm always really interested about how music has influenced their life and obviously who influenced their life musically from a young age. So for you, from a young age, what was it? Parents? Was it brothers, sisters, siblings, friends? Who was it who first really got you into music, and what sort of music can you remember from a young age?
At first, it was definitely, my parents. I think out of the two of them, my dad was really the one that had bought records. I don't remember him buying records, but certainly had a little record collection, some big Wharfdale speakers and a peak amp in the house. So definitely had early memories listening to those. And then also my godmother, my Aunt Lorena, used to tape things for me because I didn't personally own a record player. So, but I had the little clock radio with the tape and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So she would hit me with tapes of. So it was a lot of things like Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, and like 5 Star, Bob Marley, KRLP, all them kind of things as well. So some of that was stuff we had in the house just on a format that I didn't have a player for. And then some of it was things that we didn't have that she was putting me up on. So those were probably my two main influences. So yeah, my late father definitely put me up on a lot of stuff, almost kind of by osmosis and sometimes more directly. And there was a lot of it was, you listen to the radio, you hear stuff playing in the neighborhood, and especially when it was like Leeds Carnival and things like that, you would hear the dance hall and you would hear the soca and things like that. And, my mum would listen to the soca on the radio and things like that. But yeah, so that was really where I got my start.
That's cool. And you say cassettes. Now, are these like release cassettes, or are these like sort of copied down cassettes?
Oh, copies. Yeah, for real. I mean, for a long time, cassette was my primary format, and I would buy albums on cassette until I had a turntable. But yeah, at the beginning, absolutely, it was all about copying cassettes back then.
There's that famous poster, isn't there? The sort of home taping is killing music or something, isn't it? With the cassette and the sort of skulls and stuff like that.
Yeah, the little pirate thing. But
yeah,
I tell you what, for the home taping that was done, I mean, the record industry's had my money since, so it worked out for them.
Well, exactly, and we will get to sort of to all of that as well. But yes, most people who started there have gone on to buy records and obviously pump a lot of money, a lot of CDs as well, and stuff like that. But cool. Okay, so from there, I assume at some point. So I'm just looking down because I've got a little guest who seems to have jumped in. Hold on a second. Right, come say hello if you're going to say hello. Say hi.
Hello.
Hey, ZZ.
How you doing? This is Adam. Say hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Right, you're gonna sort out your set, though, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right, go on then.
Goodbye.
Bye for now.
For anyone that doesn't know, that's ZZ45 from the 45 Kids, creator of the 45 Kids, in fact. And we've got the 45 Kids Halloween special on Saturday. But anyway, she normally comes in before the show and says hello, but I forgot to do that. So anyway, that's easy. And I'm hoping in future, if she goes on one of these shows, she'll say, "Oh yeah, my dad used to play lots of records to me." That'll be the story. But yeah, but it's all cool. Right. So from there, at some point, you must have moved on to sort of DJing at some stage. When did that sort of come about?
Oh no, but DJing was quite a lot later. Hello again. Um,
Again. Right.
so
We need to go.
Goodbye.
Right. Go.
bye for now. So yeah, but DJing was quite a bit later. I mean, when I
Okay.
was coming up, it wasn't DJ equipment wasn't readily accessible. I
Yeah.
certainly didn't have the money to have it. It wasn't in the house, and it wasn't like, oh, there's a like now it's like, oh, there's a youth club, you can try DJing. Like none of that.
Very
But
true. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just buying records. I got my first record player when I was 14, so I was just buying vinyl because that's how you bought things, and it was better
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
letting the machine chew up your tapes. But I was always intrigued by DJing because I was always the guy that would be making tapes for people, and when guys would come over, I'd be, oh, you got to hear this, you got to hear that. But when you would have DJs in rap groups and stuff, I would always be so interested in what was going on, but I didn't really know anything about it. And what happened was I moved to Manchester for university, and in '97, so I'm aging myself there, they had
Don't
the
worry. I'm
DM
about the same almost.
yeah, they had the DMC UK Championship outside London for the first time, and they decided to hold it in
Wow.
Manchester. So I'd never seen one, but I was like, that looks amazing. I'm going to that. And it just made my head explode. It just absolutely blew my mind. They were doing stuff that it's not even I didn't know it could be done. It didn't even occur to me that those things would be done.
Yeah.
So that put the battery in my back, and I was like, I got to learn. I don't know how. I got to learn how to do this. So I went to a secondhand shop and picked up this made to fade
Wow.
GM25, this classic piece of DJing equipment. That's a picture
Just
just
keep it on
before
there
I
for a moment. Let's sort of make that a little bit bigger. There you go. Cool.
yeah, so I finally that's a recent picture. I got rid of it just recently.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I picked up one of those for about 50 quid and
Nice.
hooked it up to the hi-fi turntable I had and the and my CD Walkman, and that was the start. So it was real, low budget.
So deck on one side, and can you remember what sort of deck you had back then?
It was like a Sherwood. I can't remember the model number, but it had like the fake wooden, like the veneer on the
Okay.
outside,
Yeah.
belt drive, and a
Yeah.
sort of a
Belt drive. Yeah.
wheel,
Yeah.
like a wheel for the pitch. So it had a pitch control, so you could only mix the pitch in one direction.
Right.
Then I think I went home for the summer, and then I sort of pressed my father's direct drive, not even direct drive, sorry, I don't know, it's like something past direct drive, like this incredibly heavy 70s wooden fully automatic turntable,
Yeah.
pushed that into service. So now I got two turntables, but still only one pitch control. And then eventually at some point in the next year, I managed to find like some old, I think the brand was Technics, but it's not the Technics that like how you know it,
Right.
this
Okay.
was Technics with a thumb wheel pitch control belt drive at
Right.
this,
Yeah.
old like secondhand TV repair shop in Manchester. So then I'm like, okay, now I'm in the game. I got
Yeah.
two pitch controls, I got a mixer, I've got my wax, I'm ready to go. And that was the start.
DMC's here we come.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's we will carry on in a minute, but it's so interesting because pretty much every DJ who's come on has started with belt drives.
Mm,
And it's amazing how people have progressed. But again, it's the whole inspiration, and again we'll come back to this when we start talking about Twitch and all the rest of it. But it's the fact that you went to something and were so
mm,
inspired that you walked away and you're like, I want to do this or I can do this,
mm,
and I think that's something that's really important in music.
mm.
And it's great that you had the ability to actually go away and do that. It's amazing. Right, let's get back a little bit to the premise of the show. So this show's
Mm.
called All Back to Mine. If I was to come to your place in Manchester, which I may do one day, maybe next year we'll sort something out and we'll come up
No
to
doubt.
Manchester and do an event or something. And you said, look, I've got these records, just like you were talking a minute ago about the rap artists that you have to show them or play them what you've got.
Yeah.
This is right. Play me 7 records, 7 sevens from your collection that I have to hear, effectively, or people have to hear. So let's start with the first one. So if you want to tell us what you've chosen and why, and then we'll hear a little bit. But before you do that, I'm just going to say a very quick hello because we've got quite a lot of people in. I think a lot of them are your from your stream as well.
Big up
So
all the airheads, all
we've
the
got
air crew.
airheads, exactly. There we go. Big up the airheads. So I think Dave's Cunning Plan we've said hello to. Vader's Inhaler, Lovely Cake, Cat in a Box. We've got Double P in the house. We've got Tea Cake in the house. We've got Behemoth. I think I said that right. 2K. That DJ Mr. Mari, we've got Double P, I've said all that, Fat Wax 45 and Cut Class as well. So we've got a whole amazing group of people. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. But music, what's your first one and why have you chosen it?
So my first record, excuse me. So the first record I've chosen is Boogie on Reggae Woman by Stevie Wonder. This was from the Fulfilling This First Finale LP, and I chose this one because it's the first record I can remember my late father playing to me. Okay. I think he played it probably off the LP version. So when I saw it on 45, I knew I had to have it. So a lot of people will know it, but if you haven't heard it, it's a great record. So yeah, I'll line that one up for you.
Great.
There you go.
That's a great one to start, and we've got people asking to dance. Were you dancing? Is that why we cut away from the camera?
We're setting it off early. It's an interview, but it's a dance floor also.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a great choice, and I think again, it's the power of music, isn't it? That links you right back to your dad. And that's something that sticks with you, and yeah, it's so important. Okay, so you've explained how you sort of get your gear together, and you're now set up for DJing. Where does that go next in terms of DJing? Do you DJ? Are you still doing bedroom stuff? Do you end up getting out and DJing out, or what happens?
It's kind of a bit of a varied story, really, because when I started, one thing I think as I look back is I didn't really have much of a mental picture that, say, battle DJing, radio DJing, mixtapes and clubs, that those were often considered to be separate things. For me, it was all kind of one thing. So I had this idea like, okay, I'm starting off, but also, I'm studying, I'm doing these other things. It's like, if I can get good enough that I can make a tape for my mates and it sounds decent, that was like, okay, this is sort of the level I'm trying to get to. I'm not trying to be Jazzy Jeff out here necessarily. But I sort of, I was playing stuff, getting my skills together, and then I ended up doing some mixtapes. The first one was literally me just saying, I wonder if I can just sit here, because I couldn't stand up at my setup, if I can sit here and mix for like 90 minutes. So I did it. And this is when I still only had one turntable with a pitch control.
Right.
So it was kind of, it was kind of rough or whatever. And then I thought that I would print a little cover for it. Like, why not? Just something to keep. And then somebody saw me in the lab printing the thing, said, "Oh, what have you got?" And I said, "Oh, I just did a little mixtape." And he had a look and he goes, "Can I buy that?" I was like, "Sure, like I'll sell you a copy." So, I think I sold it to him for maybe £3 or something. And then that was, a little move that was happening every, I'd sell, not big numbers or anything like that. But, I'd just be dubbing the tapes in my room. Probably still is a copy somewhere. But yeah, I would just dub the tapes and sort of sell those. And that was something that I did through those 3 years. I'm trying to think when the first time was that I DJ'd out. Like there's sort of three that are sort of close together. One of them was I definitely would have done a house party or something, lugging all that stuff with me and playing.
Yeah.
I remember I did a house party and I played this set and I was just dropping all kinds of like hip hop stuff and like turntable stuff and all sorts. And when my set finished, like literally people applauding. I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So that was a bit of a madness. And then I remember in my last year at university, I was in halls and they have a person, I think they call him the tutor, who like, supervises welfare of all the people in that block or whatever. So he came back down to say hi and saw that I had all this stuff. And he goes, "Oh, well, we're going to have a get together anyway. Like, why don't you like bring that stuff along and play some records?" So I remember doing that, just in a little common area of the halls of residence. And then roughly around that time, I did a party at a club. I believe it was called Jam in Manchester on Princess Street, with a couple of guys from the African Caribbean Society. And said, "Oh, we want, I think they wanted to do a thing." They weren't necessarily DJs. I don't even know if they had a mixer either. So maybe that's just where I came in. But I went down.
Yeah.
I carried, and then I
carried the equipment.
Yeah. So I carried my. At least they had turntables. So the club had turntables.
Okay, well that's not so bad.
I took my little mixer down. I took my records down, and I did my thing there. So that was really how I started. So it was like little things like that. I was doing the mixtapes, and then. And let me know if you need me to truncate the answers or anything.
Yeah,
no.
I will. Don't worry. Keep going.
But I think one of the things that is central to like so much of and I got involved in that is like just turning up to stuff, like just going to things. You'd be amazed what can happen. So one time, while I was still studying, I heard that Loot Pack were going to be playing at some bar in Manchester. And like, Loot Pack weren't big yet. And, people didn't know about Madlib and none of that. But I did because I listened to that underground stuff. So I went along and I ran into this guy called DJ Lee Majors, big respect to Lee Majors. And we ended up chatting. And out of everyone in the bar, like everyone else was just trying to look very detached and cool, and me and him were the only two people that was going sick like at this set. So we were loving it. And then it was one of those things. I don't even think we swapped numbers, but we chatted, we had fun, we went our separate ways. When I came back to Manchester to work, I ended up running into him on a corner like near a record shop or something, and we're chatting and he goes, "Oh, you do some DJing, don't you?" He goes, "I've got a night, I'm putting a thing on, do you want to come and play some warm-up?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem." So that was, once I fully had settled in Manchester, that was the opening of me, me starting off, paying dues, playing to a lot of empty dance floor sometimes, and two people, and people are coming in, getting the first drink, and then you clear the way for the people that have done it before you.
It's all part of the journey, isn't it? It's all part of the journey.
100%. Yeah.
And it's a strange one. We will get to talk about Twitch a lot more, but it's almost the same as when you first start out on Twitch, isn't it? When you've got, when you're DJing to like 2-3 people, if you've been there, done it, and you've played to an empty room, you know how difficult it is, but you've got through that, so you can get through this, but it's all part of the journey. Definitely.
Totally. And I think just like, Chuck D said something once in an interview, which I always respected. He basically said, "Don't chase money that isn't yours." Yeah. So if you've got a Facebook music page, I mean, I guess that was his example then. Now maybe it would be a Twitch account.
Yeah,
If you got a Twitch account and you got 10 people following you, you kill it for those 10.
exactly.
You're not trying to be thinking about, oh, there should be more people and worrying about all the people that ain't checking you. I'm checking for the
Yeah.
people that are there with me. And that's, you know, because them to see a show, they've come to be entertained. And like, yeah, you go maximum effort, whether it's one person or 100 or 1,000.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, even DJing out or even DJing on Twitch or wherever you DJ, you just don't know who's in that room. You know, you just don't know. And there's a lot of time when, you know, you might do a set on Twitch, for example, and then towards the end of it, someone comes out, they've been lurking, you know, not even chatting. And suddenly the last minute they're like, oh, that was a really great set. And you're like, oh, okay, I didn't even realize you were here. But thanks very much. You know, it's great. And you just don't know, you know, and it's brilliant. But
I mean, not to put myself in that category because it would be ridiculous, but I think you'll understand the point that's been made.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan once said that every night that he played, there's somebody that's never seen him before. There's somebody in that crowd that's never seen him before,
true.
and they want to know if he is what they say he is.
Yeah.
So if he comes out and he's just kind of playing like he's not really bothered, you know, not really engaged, that person's going to go, oh, he's not really all that. If you go 100%, people can say, well, you know, you were as advertised, and whatever it is, I'm good with that.
Definitely. We will come back to Twitch, and there's some points in there definitely that's important. But let's get another tune. What's your second choice tonight?
Cool. And for everyone who's paying attention before, I'm going to use the 45 slip map. I had a bit of reverse world situation going on. I'm going to change that. But the second record is It Doesn't Really Matter by Zap. And I chose that because I first heard Zap when I was about 7 or 8 on a UK TV program called Solid Soul. And again, it was another exploded my head moment. I was just like, this is ill. This is so incredible. And I was trying to describe it to everyone at school what they sounded like. And that was the record that they performed. Also a great choice because the actual subject of the record, it's paying homage to all like the black musicians that preceded them. And yeah, I just kind of love it thematically. So yeah, I'll go and switch over things and let you hear some of that.
Great. Sounds good. That's another great choice. Another great choice. As DJ Constance K says, sick. Oh, your microphone's gone.
Sorry, there we go.
That's
Yeah, Benny Goggs dropped it at the weekend as well.
Yeah.
It's just like good choice, good choice. I already had it in my list.
It's one of those because I love More Bounce to the Ounce. It's definitely one that I like quite a lot. And this is sort of stuff that sort of was on the periphery of stuff that I listened to, and it's only recently, much more recent since Twitch, that I've got into it a lot more. Listening to people like you, listening to like Constance, Benny Goggs, people like Chris Wheatley, all of these people, all these DJs that introduce you to all these sounds, and because you're sort of just going into their channel and just trusting what they're going to play to you. I love that it's sort of expanded certainly my repertoire and the music I listen to, and it's brilliant. But yeah, another great choice, and yeah, that's great. So we've got to the stage where you've got sort of your first. Would you call it a residency? Do you think was that a sort of
I think
residency?
maybe that'd be overplaying it, but I'm getting my foot in the door. I'm
Yeah.
meeting people, and not in a sense of I'm meeting people and I'm making these moves, but just meeting great people who love
Yeah.
the same kind of stuff, and people who I'm friends with to this day. And for instance, the man that runs More Bounce in Manchester, I met him in those early days, as well
Yeah.
as Lee Majors. The MC Strategy, I know him from those days. Connie Con of Children of Zeus,
Yeah.
these were all people who were, and they were from here, and I always got to be thankful that they accepted me as somebody that, that wasn't from Manchester. And they showed love, and people like DJ Beware, now Mr. Ho, like Hong Kong DMC champion multiple times, DJ Watt, and people like that were all the people that helped give me my foundation in the city for sure.
And I guess it's great because Manchester's obviously a very big city, but it's also always been a big music city. So it's great that you were based there and able to sort of do that, and also a good hip hop city. Connie Con, I think I met once. He was at a gig with Evil Ed. I think that I was with Evil Ed, and yeah, we met him once, and yeah, very great guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where to go from there? I assume more gigs, bigger gigs.
Yep, just bits and pieces. So I had I guess you could call this one a residency. There was something that I started doing. Actually, there's a little bit of backstory required, then we'll get there. So somebody had started an open mic / open decks night at a bar called The Font. And, so the idea is if you're a DJ, bring your records down, you could spin a few tunes. And then when the MCs wanted to get on and freestyle, you would, you'd play instrumentals. Maybe you'd all take turns, swap in and out, drop instrumentals. So I was doing that and, met a few people there. And I met a couple of guys called DJ Leroy, DJ Obelix, you rest in peace. And we just became cool from going down and doing that every so often. And then one day I went down to do it and didn't hear that it had been cancelled. So there's nobody there.
Right.
I've lugged my records there on the bus. And so I'm saying to the guy that runs the bar, like, yo, I brought all this stuff on the bus. Like, is it cool if I just play it anyway? And he was like, yeah, sure. So, I was in the corner playing my little hip hop and whatnot. And at the end, I was getting off. He goes, that was really good. Like, do you want to, use the space and do something sometime? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So, I chatted to, to these guys and said, look, I just got offered the space. Why don't we like link up and do something?
Yeah.
So we originally did it as a one-off, and at first they said, I think they obviously they don't know who you are and everything, so they said, okay, you can do a Thursday night and you've kind of got to invite everyone. You can't just like blast it out, like so invite people that you know. So on that basis, we sort of put out some flyers as almost like invitations, gave them to people that we knew. It needed a name, so we called it Family Gathering on the
nice,
on the basis that you kind of had to be down with us to kind of to come along. Partly because it was a one-off. I didn't really think about at the time, but it was very close to the name of Friends and Family, which is a much more established name with the Fat City label in the city. But, we did that. It was a nice little party. People came down. So they said, actually, you want to do it again? And so we started doing it. So about 4 or 5 times a year, we would do those parties. And we did that for about 4 or 5 years before, they wanted to change the way that they programmed events. But, we all stayed cool. Let me just throw a quick picture on the screen. So that's
Nice.
some of the original crew there. So that's me, DJ Leroy, DJ Obelix, who recently passed, real, great DJ, better guy, and MC English, who's he's teaching the youth now, but he can definitely still give you some bars. And yeah, it was so that was one of those things where almost by having your own platform, for want of a better, your name gets bigger because you do this thing that people know. But it's like, yeah, by creating it, hey, we can get ourselves on at whatever time we want, and we can decide what we play. And we used to have, a very friendly vibe. So, we would bring sweets down. So, like get yourself a lollipop at the front and them kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you start getting a bit of a name from things like that. And then that led to doing, meeting more people, doing more gigs. Yeah.
It's the DIY culture, and I think we was talking about this again before on a previous show. I don't know if it's quite the same in other countries. I assume it is, but certainly in the UK, a lot of DJs have started this. To get booked, you've either got to know someone who's going to book you, or just do your own thing, set something up. And I think most of us have started in that way. Right? Okay, I want a DJ. I'll find a venue, go and play there, and then see what happens. And like you said, then sort of progresses. You meet people, network, and it sort of grows and grows. And they're like, oh, I saw you there. Why don't you come and do this? Or come and do this festival, or come and do that. That's it's all the networking, and it's being out there is the way to sort of be seen. And it's
Totally.
definitely the way it goes. Let's pause there. Let's have another record, because I'm enjoying all the music. So let's have another record, number 3.
Cool, nice one. We haven't got 10.
We've already said we might go past the 7, so you've got a few extras, so it's all cool. So
cool, yeah. We're still not even on the hip hop yet.
Yeah.
But there was a record that I just really enjoyed from when it first came out, and I wanted to drop it. So this is probably, it's not focusing, but Sweet Freedom by Michael McDonald. Always loved it from when it first came out. And then I saw it recently on 45. So I guess it kind of ties into this more modern period when I've actually been trying to get some 45s.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is there's a track called The Freedom 8 on the back, which is like a sick freestyle instrumental version, which is like ridiculously ill. So I was so pleased to get this record that I already knew and loved from when it was first released, but then to get this extra version on the flip. So I think I've played it once or twice before online, but if you haven't heard, definitely in for a treat. So hold up and get that one lined up.
Cool. Let's do it. It's definitely one of the bonuses of having 45s, isn't it? Now you said before the show that I'd probably heard all of the ones you have. I haven't heard that before, but
Okay,
that's a
nice.
great one, and it's definitely got a little bit the sort of underlying is almost like a Miami Vice sort of feel to it. I think
Definitely.
you played. I think Vice is no, is it called
I've
Vice City?
definitely played the Miami Vice
On
tune online
on
before.
the you played it on I think the on one of the 45 Kings on the Coffee and Donuts show. I think I'm pretty sure, which is
Yeah,
a
I've
great and that's a great cheapie as well. You can find that in most charity shops, and it's a great record. But that's a great one. That's a really great one. That's really good. I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn because we talked before about things other than music, and one of the things that you're into is photography.
mm,
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into photography and what sort of photography you're into?
sure. So I've always liked taking photos of things, but when I was young, of course, we're talking the film photography era.
Yeah.
It was expensive, so it wasn't a thing that was often done. And I think average 1 year old now, there'll be more. There's a guaranteed if you've got a kid, there's more photos of your 1 year old than there are of me from 1 to 18. Like because you bring the camera out on special occasions. So I didn't take many photos myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Obviously, eventually, digital photography became available. I've tried to take a couple of pictures here and there, and then I broke a camera in a really bizarre way once, like just a little pocket camera, and was like, okay, I need to replace this now. But I'm like, okay, let me get something and I didn't know what I was talking about. Like, I didn't know the concepts. So I was like, something that's a bit better, bigger lens, more control, and maybe I can learn how to use it. So I went and got this Fuji bridge camera, saw the manual, and damn near had a heart attack. And I like reading a manual, but I was like, what?
It's
But
like a
yeah,
book, isn't it?
just
Yeah.
yeah, totally. But I just took it out there and just tried things and took photos. And I think reasonably soon after I got it, I went to a battle that my mate DJ Rasp had put on, and I thought I'll just take a few photos there. And then I showed them to somebody that I knew that was studying some photography, and she was like, "These are good, like you just started, like these are good." So it just really came from already enjoying taking photos and wanting to link. I mean, I do a lot of street photography.
Okay.
I do models occasionally, but people probably know me either for the street photography or for the music photography, and a lot of that is about the photos that I enjoyed seeing growing up, being a fan, whether it was looking in, I've just realized I've got a great artifact here, I'll pick it up, but whether it's something like looking at Hip Hop Connection and seeing the gig photos, they would have like show reviews and they would have some photos. And that might be,
Yeah.
before it was hip hop was very like accessible. And when it wasn't on TV, that might be really the only times you see in some of these artists. So those images stick in your mind. Like I remember seeing a picture of EPMD on stage in London with like the African American College Alliance, sweats on and stuff like that. So things like that. And if you just let me duck 1 second. So things like this book right here, the rap
Yeah.
book by Jeanette Beckman and Bill Adler. At the time I got it, I was just like, this looks good. I've got to have it. I didn't know who Jeanette Beckman really was. I didn't know the history. I didn't know Bill Adler, but some of the really iconic shots of artists are in here. So let me see. So for instance,
Let's get you
if you've
some
ever
more
seen that
times.
one of Run DMC outside on the street in
Yeah, yeah,
Hollis,
yeah, yeah.
things like that. Let me see. Let's say LL Cool J,
Classic.
like
Yeah.
literally some of the shots that that are from here. So I guess I wanted to be able to take the kind of photos that I loved, so that I could look back through my own photo library and say, that's a good photo, and I did that. So I'll just flick a few on screen for you from the last few years.
Wow. That's great. Yeah.
That's KSR, Manchester artist at Manchester Cathedral. Great Cool G rap on stage with the whole Juice crew. That was a great moment. Camp Low, one of my favorite groups. I absolutely love Camp Low. See them perform live twice is a treat. The late great Sean Price,
Yeah.
absolute gentleman. We managed to exchange a few words. The legendary Large Professor on his original SP 1200 in Manchester. Jean-Michel Jarre, another favorite artist of mine from childhood. So to see him live was great. Lauren Oden, Adrian Young, and the whole Midnight Hour collective. Freddie Gibbs, of course, one of the, I would say the new generation. I guess he's been doing it for long enough. He's pretty much a veteran now. Donald D, Syndicate Sniper, big fan, seen him back in the days. Of course, you already know Flavor Flav Enemy. See Tribe Called Quest, absolutely treasured moment to see them in London and then finally at CL Smooth on stage in Manchester to I'll Get Physical, I believe he was sort of doing like air chest presses.
They're amazing, mate. They are.
Thank you.
They're proper, and they're definitely right up there with the photos you showed us from the book.
Thank you.
Amazing. But yeah, Tribe. I mean, I don't know if that was the same. No, I saw them at the maybe the Wireless Festival.
Yeah, that was where I saw them, was Wireless.
Yeah, that was the last time. I'd managed to see Fife a couple of times on his own before that, but it was very unwell, unfortunately. The second time we saw him, he was pretty unwell, and you could tell. And it's only later when you sort of watch the film and realise what was really going on, because obviously until that sort of came out, you just didn't, you heard bits and bobs, but until you saw that, it's that. As Lovely Cake says, maybe an Air Adam photo book.
Who knows? Like I wouldn't rule it out. If there was demand for it, if I could make it work, I would love to put together a collection of some of the photos over the years.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. That is, really good, really good. And it's nice, as Constance says, because I know she's a very into photography as well, and as was I used to. Photography and music do go very well together. And even if you're not, you're taking obviously shots of artists. Even if you're not doing that and you're doing other stuff, it's just that creative side, isn't it? I think they sort of
100%.
blend quite well together.
Yeah.
Well, you've got one sale. Double P would buy it. So
nice.
You've got one sale. There you go. Cool. Right. Let's have another record. What have you got next?
Cool. Okay, so I think we're finally going to get our first hip hop record, we're going to go with the legends who actually were just in one of the photos. Public Enemy, Welcome to the Terror Dome.
Yeah.
P being, one of my favorite groups of all time. I used to have my Public Enemy badge on my uniform in high school in a regular and have to get told to take it off every lesson. My Public Enemy badge, my NWA badge. Such a fan of them, what they stand for and what they did musically. And certainly when you're talking about the Fear of the Black Planet LP, arguably you're talking about the peak of their powers. I mean, obviously Nation of Millions is probably, if you had to pick one, it's probably that one. But, Fear of a Black Planet, I think I heard that in full. I heard that first before I had my own copy of Nation of Millions, and obviously Welcome to the Terror Dome is a huge single. So I'll line that one up for you.
Great.
Hustler of culture. hitting, been spitting the face, but the rhymes keep fitting. Respect's been given, how's you living? Now I can't protect, I paid off defect. Check the record and record, intentional wreck. Laid off as some intellect. Made the call, took the fall, broke the laws. Not my fault that they're falling off. Known as fair and square throughout my years. So I growl at the living foul. Black to the bone, my home is your home. But welcome to the Terror Dome.
It's a very popular choice. everyone loves that one, and it's amazing how many of my guests come on here and reference Public Enemy. You know, pretty much not every single one, but a lot of them do. It just shows how important a band they were.
Truly,
certainly to our generation, what they were doing. You know, and I think they still are. You know, I assume I call them youngsters, you know, obviously anyone who's younger than me is youngsters, but I assume the youngsters still get into them as much as that. Obviously, the power behind their message may not be quite as powerful now because there's so much else going on in the world, but I think they definitely stood out, and it's amazing how important they were. I'm just seeing what someone's saying. Fatwax saying Nick Bike did an edit of that with JJ and FP Summertime vocal. So I haven't heard that, but yeah, no, some interesting stuff. And Tea Cake saying that her brother loved Public Enemy and the 911 reference, and her name is due to them, and also a little play on her date of birth. But
a little bit of Tea Cake trivia. Shout out Tea Cake 911.
We've had Fatwax on the show. I think Tea Cake, if you're up for it, maybe we can get you on the show at some point. I'm sure there's lots of interesting records that you've got that I won't have. Tea Cake. Maybe we'll have a chat about that one day. We've had the kids actually. We had the kids on a talk show and had Fatwax, so maybe it is time for Tea Cake to be on. But let's talk next about your podcast. Tell us a little bit about that, and you know where can people hear it and what it promotes.
Sure. So I guess the backstory of that was, like I said earlier on, I'd been doing mixtapes, and so I would take ages doing. As I got later on, I would take ages and ages doing mixtapes. They would get more and more complex. I was really kind of stretching the capabilities of what I could do with my equipment. I've actually got one of the last one I did on cassette is here.
Okay.
So I've been doing a mixtape thing, and obviously the whole music landscape had changed with you know, we'd been through the Napster era and all that kind of thing. So I'm like, people are probably not really buying mixtapes like that anymore. But I still wanted to put music out there, and it was, you know, it's never about getting money. It's just about like sharing the music. So I thought about how I could do that. And Agent J, great DJ and interviewer, music journalist from Manchester, he was getting me on his show. And we were chatting, and it's like, oh, you know, I got a podcast, and he was showing me this, I guess, part of the control panel behind it, and it showed all the places in the world that had heard it, and I was like, that is amazing. I need to find a way to do that. So I thought I'll have a go. So, you know, I just recorded something. I'm like, boom, Air Adam podcast. I'm like, I'll put out an episode, see if anyone likes it, and people did, and that was in June of 2009. And we're still going. So it's been out every month since June 2009. Never been late, never missed an episode, touch wood. Through all kinds of things happening, I've always sort of stayed doing it. Because I'm a hip hop DJ, you know, it's primarily hip hop, but I throw other things in there. It's just whatever I feel like doing. As Lovely Cake noted, there's quite long notes with every episode. At first, it started off with I just would put a track list because I wanted people to know what the tunes were so they could hear them. And then sometimes it was like, oh, you know, I'll put a couple of words about the track, about some of the tracks. And then gradually it spiraled out. So now every month I write about 1,600 words worth of notes to go with every episode. So if you'd like to hear it, you can go to podcast.airadam.com. That's like the original homepage for it. Also, it's on Apple Podcasts, which is, you know, pretty standard. It's on all your iPhones and whatnot. Just search for Air Adam Podcast. You'll find it on there. Hit subscribe. It's on Pocket Casts and a similar kind of thing, because it's a standard RSS feed type podcast. So you can find it on Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, what's the other one? TuneIn, a lot of the directories, and also it's on Mixcloud after pulled a few moves, so it's on Mixcloud. So you can go to mixcloud.com/AirAdamPodcast, and it just pulls the episodes onto there. So obviously, with it being Mixcloud, that's streaming only. But if you subscribe to it in a regular podcatcher from one of the other places, you can hear it, in the car, at the gym, while you're painting a wall. I heard about people listening to it in a lot of places. So and it's just it's very much a labor of love. And we're putting a capital on both of those L's. When it gets to the end of the month, the pressure. I haven't finished recording yet. I haven't finished choosing stuff. I got all these words to write. I got to do the voiceover, but it's kind of like your own radio show. And many years before Twitch, it's a little environment that you can control. If you want people to hear some stuff, you can play it for them. If you want to put things in context, you can do that. You can reach a bigger audience than, I think one thing that I said in the initial notes before the first episode comes out is if you play in a club, that club might be able to fit 150 or 400 people. You put something like that out there, it could conceivably reach any number of people, and it could be anywhere. I don't have the most gigantic audience. It's not like My American Life or Serial or anything like that, but there are people who faithfully listen every month. There are people that might not hear it every month, but then they'll kind of catch up on the back episodes and that kind of thing. And to see it reach countries that I probably will never visit, is really quite humbling. I mean, when I saw that there'd been a download in Mecca, it's like, I can't enter Mecca, you know what I mean? But I did in that form. I entered that space, and that's quite something. So episode 161, all being well, will be out on Halloween. So we go in a little bit spooky, a little bit ominous with it. So I would appreciate people taking a listen, and do let me know what you think.
And how do you find the interaction and response? Do people get in touch? Do people sort of email you? Do people sort of send you comments and things about it?
Occasionally, sometimes I'll get a message maybe in like my IG inbox or on Twitter or somebody like, oh, I like this episode. Sometimes they might name a specific track, which is great because I always like to know what specific people enjoyed. Sometimes I'll run into people. Like I remember I was at some kind of an event, and I was talking to, I ran into one of my boys, and we was chatting, and some other guy came up and said, "Yeah, are you, like, I recognize your voice. Are you Air Adam?
Amazing.
Like, my man plays your stuff like all the time." So it's funny like that. So it's not like you get loads and loads of feedback, and the more you get, like, the better. But
just that, someone recognizing your voice and knowing exactly who you were, that's it just hits you here, doesn't it?
For sure.
It's really important. Well, it looks like you can have certainly some new followers and some new listeners. You got Tea Cake and
nice
Double P if he's not listening already. And as Lovely Cake says, such a recognizable voice, definitely. Right, let's have another track, and then we'll probably move on to Twitch after that.
Cool. So. Okay, so this is a record. I mean, I don't know who will know it well, but I know that I've definitely played it. I might have even played it on Coffee and Donuts. It's 40 Leg by Red Rat. And I mean, I didn't actively listen to a lot of dancehall when I was young. It was around me, but that wasn't primarily what I was listening to. And I kind of got upon, stuff like a little bit later on as I got into my sort of later teens and adulthood or whatever. But this is a record that I got when I think I bought like a bunch of dancehall at once. Like I think I bought a collection off eBay. I was like, like 70 or 80. And then you're going through it. Some of it's hot, some of it isn't. And I just really like this. It's on the, if I'm correct, I think it's on the Kashmir rhythm. So I guess it's supposed to sound Indian, but the sounds make me think of Scotland. They make me think of bagpipes. And a bit of trivia, because I didn't twig for a long time. 40 leg is the Jamaican, it's like the patois word for a centipede. And if you've ever seen a centipede, it's a lot closer to having 40 legs than it is to having 100, like the name in
Okay.
English.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So when I heard that, I was sort of quite amused. But I mean, I love this record, so I'll just slide over to the decks and play it for you.
Cool. Definitely looking forward to it.
But I coulda what take Miss 40 legs. 20 man to the right and 20 to the left. I saw she easy for spread. Touch her too hard, she cock open like heck. Shut yo, you wear your skirt, you wear your shorts, woman, you wear your frock, cause you nah no marky leg. And if I can borrow your clothes, you not go on that back because you fear the 40 leg. And while some y'all chatter, them get slapped on the house back, you and your man in a water bed. You love your man, you love your back, you not try kill this act, a one man a party leg. Some girl a huff and a puff and a blow raw steam and get vexed when you run her when she come off steam. She coulda bright, want to get a 32 raw scene. She fi realize that you are the high class queen. She have a heart, see your man up, sister say hi to him. Then now she want people man and have a good hygiene. As you pull the wind that they didn't. She gal a fly your business like she have a Superman high heel. Gal when you walk, your ear car and your ear siren. Man a buy your chocolate and never no size screen. Your skin smooth, no marky, you not have eye sheen. Remote control, pull your gate, me gal driving. Sure, you wear your skirt, you wear your shorts, woman, you wear your frock, cause you not no marky leg. And if a gal borrow your clothes, you not go on that back because you fear the 40 leg. And while some gal a chatter, them get slapped on the house back, you and your man in a water bed. You love your man, him love your back, you not try to kill this act. One man a party leg. Yo, girl, you not careless, you not wear tear dress, up you awareness.
So that's an interesting record. I almost spat my water out when I saw Vader's inhalers comment. Surrounds people Willie on the decks. That's a great comment. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because like, yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. The sort of Indian sort of drums with the sort of bagpipes. Yeah, I haven't heard that one before. I definitely haven't heard that one before. I would have remembered that. But yeah, no, another great record. Cool. Let's move into Twitch a little bit. So, when did you first become aware of Twitch, and then how did you get involved?
So I think I vaguely heard of Twitch as a video game thing, like quite a few years ago, but I just didn't see the point of. And I sort of see it now, but of people watching other people play video games,
it didn't
so I
make
was
sense,
just like,
did it? It was like, why would you just watch other people play games? And this is what I was like, it just didn't make any sense. But now,
exactly,
it's the chat and the community. That's what it is.
Yeah. But then I figured, I watch people play sport on TV, so maybe what's the difference? But what happened is, obviously, the plague hit, and we were all stuck inside. And because I'm the kind of person that like fiddles with tech, I've got like a technical background and stuff. If you've ever heard people playing on Instagram Live, where you put the phone in the room and then you play your record, and it goes in through the microphone, and people were playing that, and I was like, I think I can do that better, So I used a particular kind of audio cable to bypass the mic and be able to pump the mixer audio from my setup directly into the phone, so it was sounding like crispy. So I told loads of people I know, okay, go on Instagram Live on this day on such and such a time. Everyone's stuck inside. I'm like, tune in at this time. I'll play you a DJ set. So I did it, and I was doing it, and it was going well, and people were enjoying it. And then the Instagram police. I made it easy for the Instagram police because the sound quality was so good. So I get this thing flashing on the screen going like, we are detecting copyrighted material. You need to stop. And then it stopped the stream. So then I just restarted it. And then it was like, no, seriously, stop. We're going to close your account. Yeah. So I'm like, right, okay. So I had to like lock that off. And I think I posted on Twitter something like, I was sort of vaguely aware that you could do this on Facebook, but they were very militant in a similar way. And I once had a YouTube copyright strike for something super random in the background. So I'm like, that's probably not an option. So I put out on Twitter, I said, like, does anyone know where you can do something like this without getting in trouble? And a DJ called Danny Deal, I didn't know her at the time, Chicago electronic music DJ, like absolutely great. She replied and said, oh, Twitch. And I was like the video game thing. And she goes, yeah, like it's not just video games, there's people doing other things. She goes, I DJ on there. So I went and looked up how does Twitch work? How do you get on it or whatever? And started from there. I think I already had OBS installed from
Right.
something else that I'd been doing. So at least when they mentioned it, I was like, okay, I understand what this is. And then it was just, it just kind of started from there. So once I worked out how to get my video and sound and all that connected, I think I had somebody lend me a webcam. I didn't have one at the time. So, I told my friends, I'll be, go to this site at this time. I'm going to, I'll DJ for you on there. And, I had some problems with the video frame rate. I didn't know, I didn't take into account like CPU throttling and stuff like that. Or wired networking versus Wi-Fi, but people stayed with me. And, because the music was there, and they even said, we don't even care that the video's messed up, leave it on anyway. But I just started from there, and then people liked it. Everyone was stuck inside, so I kept doing it. Things have changed now, obviously. Things have opened up, whether that be a good or a bad thing in many ways. But I know I've said to my audience, like, as long as you want me, I will keep doing it. You're not just competing with everyone on Twitch. You're competing with everything outside that window.
Exactly.
And people got schedules, they got things to do and other things that are happening. But it's a blessing when you can just hit a switch from your spare room in Manchester and have people everywhere from a couple of miles up the road to a couple of 1,000 miles or 3,000 miles that way tuning in to hear what you're doing.
It still blows my mind, that, like you say, you just switch it on, and then people around the world tune in, and get involved and chat, and these are now friends. They're not just a question. There's people who've been in your chat, you've been in their stream. You might have messaged. I'm quite lucky in obviously doing this and getting to actually speak face to face over a camera. But I get to talk to a lot of these DJs that I've met over the last few years. But it's still it's amazing, and it's one of those things, isn't it? It probably wouldn't have happened in the same. It might have happened, but I don't think it would have happened in this way if it wasn't for the pandemic.
I think you're right.
I just can't see how it would have happened, because streaming's always sort of been there.
Yeah.
But I think until it was sort of forced upon everyone, and then people started saying, okay, Jazzy Jeff's doing it, Scratch Bastard's doing it, this DJ's doing it, that's DJ's doing it. I can do it. I can go on and stream. I don't think a lot of people would have done it. And
absolutely.
And we were talking before, weren't we, just before the show, about the sort of great equalisation of DJs. Yes, we're not all on the same level, but suddenly during the pandemic, we're all streaming, we're all there, aren't we? Really, and you could be on raid trains with these massive DJs and bedroom DJs and gigging DJ and all sorts, and there didn't seem to be any sort of very little, if any, ego.
Just not encountered it at all. Which has been great. I mean, obviously, it's like you don't interact with everybody. I mean, even when you look in the chat, and as Lovely Cake says, it's all about the community. If you're in, say, Jazzy Jeff's chat and there's like 1,000+ people there,
you can't.
He ain't gonna. He's barely gonna notice. He probably can't even keep up, even if if you wanted to mention everybody or anything like that. But whenever you do interact with somebody, I've never witnessed any kind of people copping attitude, that snobbishness that I'm up here and you're down there. And sometimes, you get, especially because of the raid trains and just the way that the platform operates, you get people in your sessions or in other sessions, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, I know who that is. Like Rob Bass has been in my sessions, and it's like,
wow,
the amount of times I've listened to that record, well, not just that record, Joy and Pain, some of the other stuff, but, that somebody can be like, I enjoy what you're doing. The greats are the greats for a reason, and, we hold them in high regard and everything. But there is an aspect in which we're all closer together than you think. We have more common experience than you think. I think I was saying to you before we came on, and anyone who was on my Saturday stream might have picked up on this, like, we raided to DJ Boogie Blind, great Boogie Blind, and the Executioners crew when my session finished. And I was just like looking at the room where he was DJing and his setup and everything, and thinking, that's not actually so different than where I am and
Yeah.
where I'm DJing. You know, it's like it's this common, you know, okay, we got our racks of records, we got our turntables, maybe you got some random bits and pieces about the place. It's not some giant super scientifically advanced studio. It's not dripping in gold. You know, these are regular people. Like regular people have done amazing things
Yeah.
that we love, but it just goes to show how much we have in common. So that's actually been really enjoyable.
But it goes to show as well that it's they're obviously getting something out of it as well. You
Mm,
know, I mean, okay, some of the bigger streamers, you know, the sort of the early Twitch gold rush where people were making money and getting quite, you know, quite the big DJs. I don't think it's quite the same now because people have, one, they're out about doing stuff. Two, cost of living and all the rest of it, things have changed quite substantially.
mm,
But it's the fact that they still get something out of it, you know,
mm.
and it's that love, I guess, and the community and the
Yeah,
sharing and being able to just play music to not just strangers, but obviously friends, and just play music that you want. And I think one of the biggest
totally.
things I love about it is you can just play whatever the hell you like on
For
Twitch.
real.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
it's
can.
so liberating. You know, it's
Yeah,
so
it's
liberating.
yeah, I mean, it's like I was gonna say, are there constraints? I mean, if I just went and played like, I don't know, like some random, I think I started off a stream recently and people didn't dislike it or anything with some random prog rock thing from the 70s or whatever. Obviously, if you're playing stuff that people don't like, they'll click somewhere else, which is absolutely fine. But you don't have that kind of feedback that you might get. Like, say, in a club, there might be a record that I think is perfectly
Yeah,
appropriate. And then you get someone go, oh, can you play some or can you play something we can dance to? And I'm like, this is James Brown. What are you talking about
exactly.
right now? So you know, you can, yeah, you can stretch the audience a bit. And one thing I say is I always say I got the best audience. People that will let me play, you know, yes, I'll play some of, certainly when I do a Saturday night, I'll play some of the big hip hop tunes that people know,
Yeah,
some of the classics from back in the day, but then I'll mix it up with stuff that wasn't as well known and I'll play other genres. I mean, if I'm doing, you know, the average hip hop gig that I do that I love, I can't drop a Madonna in the middle of that. You know, I can't play D-Light in the middle of that set necessarily,
yeah, yeah,
or some synthwave or something. But on Twitch, you can do that. And just
exactly.
to pick out one DJ that I'm thinking of who plays something very different on Twitch than you would know him for, the great Easy Mo B. You know, so much did so much of Biggie's first album, Flav You in Your Ear, so many heavy hip hop tracks. He streams pretty much exclusively like old house records on Twitch, and you go and it's just like a real plain room and there's just boxes upon boxes of records, and this is obviously just one aspect of his love for music. And you know, it's set up, there's nothing fancy on the screen. And you know, I'm going to say this about him, but it applies to many, like the privilege to be allowed into the house of somebody, you know, virtually the
Yeah,
house of somebody like that, somebody who's done so much, and be able to hear them playing records from the comfort of your own home for free. And
yeah,
you can, you know, you can donate if you want to, but ideally, you know, you can just listen for free.
yeah.
That is amazing. And as you pointed out, I think without the unfortunate events, you know, the thing that we're still going through, it probably wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened in the last couple of years. Maybe it would have come down the pipe, but yeah, I don't think we were anywhere until we were forced.
I just can't see that it would have got to what it's got to. You know, there
Mm,
may have been some movement and some sort of DJs streaming, but it would have been probably DJs streaming from events or
mm,
whatever. You know, we're doing a live event and then they're streaming. I don't think you'd have, you know, had, for example, like from Jazzy Jeff's house or Scratch
no,
Bastard's house. You know, I don't think that would have ever happened because they'd be like, well, why would I do that? You know, why would I do
yeah.
that? So we
And
are very
funnily
privileged.
enough, yeah, just so to bring a
Go on.
thought back, is about it sort of taking us by surprise.
Yeah.
One aspect is the fact that Twitch became the place that everyone landed, because
Yeah.
Mixcloud was already like essentially a streaming platform. And somebody's going to tell me that I might have got my dates together. There might be something that I don't know, but as far as I'm aware, they didn't have video streaming previously. And if they had have got on that, if they had the video streaming feature like 6 months, 7 months before they did, when everyone was shut inside, all the DJs who were already on Mixcloud would have streamed on there and would have been on that platform. But because they didn't, people found Twitch, and then it kind of like that gravity sucked other people towards it because it is about the community. And now you've got like this weird thing where Mixcloud has not really got the DJs doing that, and Twitch hasn't really got the music rights situation sorted out. So they sort of know we're here, but they can't really push it because there's a legal issue. And it is just funny that the reason why it was Twitch is because it was there at the right time, and
it was established, and it's and there's some, I've watched some streams, I've done some streams on Mixcloud Live, and it's just slightly different. It's just not, the community just isn't quite there, and as we've already said, it's things like sort of raiding. Hosting's gone out the window, largely, unless you've got sort of your suggested streamers. But I think raiding is still an amazing thing, isn't it? It's like, right, I'm going to take all my viewers and take them to someone else's channel because I respect this person, or let's go and see this person, or whatever. I describe it. If people who I speak to don't know what Twitch is or don't understand raiding or anything like that, I say, right, we're at a festival, we're watching this DJ, and I say to my group, right, let's go and see this band, or let's go and do this, and then you sort of take them to the next stage or the next 10,
100%, absolutely,
and it's basically that, isn't it? But we're doing it in a virtual world, but you can take them anywhere in the world.
And I mean, we've all done it like on a smaller scale. Like I was going to say, the festival thing, it didn't occur to me, but it's like, you're at a party or you're at a club or something, and maybe the club's shutting down, and then you say, right, okay, I'm taking all my guys over here now. But there's something happening, whether it's at this venue or it's at, we heard that there's a house party down in such and such place. Okay, well, we're going there now. And then you bring all your people through, and it's a virtual, an internet version of that, and it means the party doesn't stop, so you might,
it never stops.
so even if somebody might jump on, say they came to my stream first, and then I go on a raid, and then maybe we raid to like DJ Rockin' Ron or somebody, and then he finishes and he raids to the next person, and like I say, if you went out the room, like maybe you had to do something, you might come back after an hour like, oh, where are we now? And maybe some of the people at the beginning are still there.
Yeah, I love it in so if I'm on a raid event or streaming or whatever, at the end of the night, I just leave it on, and we've talked about this. I don't leave the channel, and it's when you come back in the morning, at like 7, 8 a.m. and you're like, where are we now? And you're like, whoa, what is this channel? Who's this person? What's this going on? I did coming back to being able to play whatever you want, one of the strangest things I find is I play a lot of 45s at 33 as part of 33 Day, which I do as well, and also as part of Slow Mo Monday, which again, that still blows my mind that people will tune in and listen to music being played at alternate speed.
I love that
I did one
so
the other
much.
day.
Love it.
I did one the other day, and it was, I think I played like 11 till 12. I stayed up till, I don't know, maybe half 12, 1. And then I went to bed and then came back, and at 8 a.m. they're still going. The guy on the end of the trade drain is still doing like his 4th hour of Slow Mo Monday. But it's brilliant. I love it. I love it so much. Right, let's have another record, and then we'll talk a few more bits about Twitch. I'm going to say hello to Mixter Hoffman as well, who's in the house.
Yep, big up.
He's
and just to answer the question, just in case it got lost, E-Town DJ. Sorry, that was Easy Mo B that I was talking about. Very, very dope. So the next record I'm going to play is by the late, great Jay Dilla featuring Elzai. So Detroit All the Way, what up, though? Track called Come Get It from the Welcome to Detroit LP. Obviously, it's just symbolizing, my love for hip hop and everything else. And this was such an outstanding album because when BBE, the record label BBE, signed up all these producers, for anyone that doesn't know the history, to do these producer-led albums called a Beat Generation. And because these producers and DJs had never had this freedom before, they were all like, oh my goodness, I don't actually know what to do. And they all agreed, let JD go first.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does. And his album sounded in some ways very like what you might have expected, and in other ways very different, with like bossa nova and doing a version of Trans-Europe Express on the slowdown and things like that. So really, really great album. I recently my lovely partner, Dr. Lisa, bought me this album on 45s for a birthday. So, yep, I will play you Come Get It by Elzai. By the way, this is a parental advisory on this track.
My daughter's gone to bed, you're fine.
Elzai, J Dilla, rock on.
Yo, I heard you was looking for me. Well, it's sorta like you looking to be in the wrong place, but your arms wave getting took for your things. That ice emblem, your Benjamin and your Timberland. My raps finish them like strokes to black citizens. Attack your women friend. Pull her hair to the straight like she half Indian. Collapse mini man during laps around Meridian. Aim for your chest like I'm a titty man. With a fetish for filling them with a iron fist that lift like helium. Y'all niggas want shock therapy. You pop barely and fold up. You never blow up, no. Y'all full of hot air to me. Another rapper claiming he hot, but couldn't be if he was Damien's pops. That was once an angel from God. Get my jock out your mouth now that I'm hot. Can't believe niggas that stoop so low to they limbo with the cock. Well, I'm trying to get over like an alky that's sober nights. Y'all niggas ain't spitting, y'all just soaking mice. Getting hot-headed, but my shoulder's ice. That's why I catch the cold eye. That's why you catching hoes, guy, inside your photo ride. I let FOMO slide from out the barrel. Then my niggas speed to punch you in your back to knock you out of peril.
What you want? What you want? Where you at? Where you at? What you want? Where you at?
You looking for me under a rock, a bush, or a tree? I jump on your block and stump you till my foot is asleep.
What you want? What you want? Where you at? What you want? Where you at?
You looking for me, running your spot, bullet and heat. I bust off a Glock and snuff you till you put in the deep. Get your best nigga out your brigade. Bet everything becomes vague. Clothes become beige from hearing sweet serenade.
That's an absolute classic. I don't read a lot because I don't have time, but I'm about halfway through Dilla Time at the moment.
Oh, I've not got that yet. I'm definitely picking that up.
Yeah, I'm such a slow reader when I read books, but it's a really good reader, and I think I'm about just gone past that point actually, when the guy from BB goes over and basically says to him, "Come on, make an album, do what you want," basically. And obviously that's the start of his sort of career where he sort of starts to do his own stuff, all the time before that, producing for other people and part of collaboratives and stuff like that. But Dilla, rest in peace. Again, he's one of those people who's taken far too early. What could we have heard? What would he have achieved? Where would we be now? If he was still around. And music's amazing to keep these people alive, effectively, to keep the memory. And it's the same, I suppose, with films, but not quite so much in a way, because obviously once people get past a certain age and they've been dead for a few years, it's not quite in the same way. But I think music's quite evocative, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
There's so many people who die far too early, unfortunately. Okay, we talked a little bit about Twitch, but one thing we spoke about, and here she is, it's one of my mods, Twitch Witch. We were just about to talk about mods.
Big up this Twitch Witch.
And there she is. Big shout out to Twitch and all my other mods as well. We were talking before we came on about how important mods are on Twitch. So tell me a little bit about, who you've got, who mods for you, and how they sort of help the stream and what they do for you.
Cool. So I've got two moderators. My partner, Dr. Lisa Likes Wine, and Lovely Cake in the chat, aka the Sheriff. And they're just absolutely essential. I mean, you've got, some of the meat and potatoes stuff of, shouting out DJs and things like that when you can't reach the keyboard and things like that. And as far as I know, we haven't had to really ban people. Occasionally a bot pops up, and then the sheriff's got to put the hammer down on them or something like that. But there's that. But what I found that the mods are amazing at as just keeping the vibe and the personality of a channel being an extension of what it is that you're trying to do. And I mean, obviously I see Dr. Lisa, we live together, and whenever I thank Lovely Cake after the show, I often say, look, you're a big part of the reason why the chat is as good as it is, not in terms of like being orderly and that kind of thing, but in terms of being friendly and nice, and like, you've got like your little in jokes and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's difficult to overstate how important good mods are to the channel, and I'm lucky to have two great ones. And also I got to shout out my man Behemoth. If you've ever seen the Powerpuff pictures of us all on the channel, that started off because I'd used a Powerpuff generator years ago to do a picture of me, and then he kind of extended that out. He did one of Dr. Lisa and of Lovely Cake. So if ever you pop on the channel and you see those depictions, or you see them as a that was a work of Behemoth, and he just did that for the love, did it as a friend and a fan of the show. And yeah, just so great. And when I go into other people's channels as well, mods are so on it, welcoming people in. And it's like it's almost like Cheer, like that cliche about Cheers that I actually never really watched. Like someone where everybody knows your name. Like, if you've been visiting a stream on a regular and you come in and the mods will recognize your name and they go, "Oh, hey Adam, how's it going?" You know what I mean? It's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then everybody else gets involved. I think a streaming platform without the chat would obviously be very different, but even a streaming platform with the chat but without mods would not be even half as good as it is.
It's sort of come back to the sort of real life analogy. I suppose it's almost like the maybe not quite the doorman, but say the person who collects your ticket or takes your money as you're coming through into a club or whatever. It's almost like the first person other than you.
Yeah.
It's almost like the first person they see who is representing you and representing the channel. And it is so important. And certainly, my mods are brilliant. We've got Double P, we've got Twitch Witch, Sideshow Mall, we've got a few others as well. And it's just a case of just keeping on top of what's going on. And, if a DJ comes in and say, right, give them a shout out, or if a raid comes in, welcome raiders,
exactly,
do all this stuff. And it's stuff that, because we as DJs, you've got a DJ, which is one
exactly.
thing,
you can't get to everything. You can't necessarily get to the keyboard, or you might just miss something on the monitor. So I mean, anyone listening, if I ever miss mentioning your name, it's like I'm watching the turntables, I'm watching what's happening in the mixer, I'm listening to two records at once. Exactly. I've got a screen of stuff happening in front of me. Yeah. That's actually really quite difficult to keep track of a scrolling event stream. So all DJs do their best, but the mods play an essential role in helping to stay on top of that and like welcoming people in. And and the people that come, everyone's like a family. Like you start to remember where people are from, and people know. So when Trummelback comes in, it's like representing Basel. When Mr. Casa comes through, coming from Beirut or wherever, you start to remember all your regulars. And sometimes somebody that might not have been in for a while, and you're like, yeah, you're home, make yourself comfortable. We got some music for you.
It's it's brilliant, and it's all part of, we were talking, I think it was before the show, about how we're all, we are like a TV channel. We're broadcasting, and however many people is broadcasting, and like any TV channel, it takes more than one person to run the show.
Absolutely.
And do it. And like I was saying to you before, some other talk shows like Dusty Donuts and stuff, they have the hosts and the guests, and then they've got people in the background doing what I'm doing here on my little sort of my mouse thing, dropping in the chat and dropping that in, and eventually I'm going to try and get some people involved in that as well. But it's just, again, it's building a community, isn't it? It's building that community and that closeness and that friendship, because we're all in it together, and it's at the end of the day we're presenting something, and it's great.
Yeah.
Lovely Kate says, "You're too kind. The Airheads are the best fans on here."
Oh, thank you. Shout out to Airheads again, all our crew.
That's cool. Let's have. I always lose track. I've got no idea what we're on. Maybe we might be on 7. I don't know.
We're on 7. I got more if you want to go longer.
Yeah, let's do number 7. We'll have a little bit more chat, and then we'll probably chuck in another one or two.
Cool. So for number 7, we're going with, again, I don't know how good the focusing is. This is Take Me to the Next Phase by the Isley Brothers. So this came out actually, yeah, just 1 year after I was born. It was a record. I
Okay.
didn't know it for a long time. I've discovered it during my Twitch periods. I think I was out record shopping, just took a chance on it. Well, I say take a chance, it's the Isley Brothers, but I didn't know it, grabbed it and brought it home, and I was like, that is ridiculous. And it's a little bit of a channel anthem. I've played it quite a few times. It probably gets played 2 or 3 times a year on a vintage vinyl show. And hopefully people ain't sick of it yet, because I just think this record's incredible.
Another great track. Another great track.
Absolute
They've all
heater.
been bangers. And I mean, this is
Thank
why I
you.
like this show, because you tell people 7, and everyone's like, "Yeah, that's really hard. That's really hard." But it does force people to have a think, and pretty much 100% of the time, they're all 7 amazing records.
Yeah, like I've been lucky to get some good stuff, because my 45 collection isn't as big as many. But since I've made a point of sort of trying to pick up more, I've definitely just added some great records to the collection.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So, when I assume you've always bought some 45s along the way, but when did it become perhaps a little bit more of a thing, and when you're sort of searching out for 45s a bit more?
Only extremely recently, like literally probably when you invited me to play on Coffee and Donuts,
Okay,
like
so
when I
my
was
fault.
young. Yeah, when I was young, I only bought
Yeah.
45s basically when I was broke, which was a lot of the time. And it was like, you might be in a record shop and they would have, maybe they would be 25p or 50p.
Yeah.
And if there's something that you'd sort of heard, an artist you'd heard of, pick up like a couple of those or whatever. And, I've still got all of those. Then later on, I mean, it's funny, I wish I'd known what a big thing 45s were going to be, because I would have bought more
Tell
of
me
that
about
stuff
it.
back in the day.
Yeah.
But like, I'd always been like a 12-inch DJ, and I love the big cover art and all that stuff. But I would pick up 45s if I saw them at a good price. And then there was a period where sometimes you'd know people, they'd want to put out a record, but putting out a 12 was kind of expensive. Doing a 7 was a bit cheaper, so you'd sort of pick up, I'd grab a few of those, or sometimes there'd be a bonus inclusion with something else, so it was kind of those. Dancehall primarily, I think it's probably fair to say dancehall is primarily a 7-inch format, so that was the first genre that really started to take up space in the collection. I had a small handful from my parents, and then I kind of added on from there. But yeah, it was never a format that I was actively searching for until it was like, oh, the 45 thing is a thing. So I mean, you know, I even got my I got my little 45 slip mats now. I got
I saw that.
I got my 45 bag now.
45 bag,
I'm
yeah,
real.
yeah.
So, like, I'm a real
45
boy.
adapters, yeah, and it never stops.
Exactly.
I think you know, you've got a real addiction and a real problem. I know some of the other 45s are here when you don't just have one 45s bag, you then have a collection of 45s bags. You then got a collection of 7-inch slip mats, and then a collection of 45s adapters. That's when you know you're really addicted to this 45 game.
Yeah. So I mean, I've seen the collections of what people have. Like, I mean, I certainly haven't counted mine. If I had to guess, top of the head guess, I reckon maybe there's 400 or 500 here, like the max.
That's still a good collection. You probably can't tell much, but I've had a bit of a clean up, and I've sort of set a few things up. And my wife walked in because a lot of them were on the floor or in boxes. She was like, "Oh shit, you have got a lot of records, haven't you?" It's like, yeah, I have got a lot of records. But yeah, it is an addiction, but it's a good one, and I think I'm okay with it because of what we're doing with the streaming, but also what we're doing with the 45 kids, which we'll talk about again in a minute. But it's definitely, you know, it's definitely a good thing. And as DJ Yamix points out, got more adapters than I need. Yeah, I mean, you only ever really need two. Yeah, well, I tell you what, I use 4 on the basis that I've got these ones. I don't know if you can see them, which are the Sid Def ones. For dinked records, and then I use these ones, which are the Gaff makes these, which are a lot heavier. So if they've got a small hole, I use that one. If they've got a dinked, I use those ones. But I have got a load of other adapters up there as well, which I don't use. They're just sort of there, but they look pretty. You know, they're all cool. They're all cool. Right, let's sneak another track in.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't even got into vinyl digitization yet, but maybe we'll talk about that.
Sneak another track in. We'll talk about that.
But let's see. So we're into overtime on the tracks now. So let's see.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to shout out my adopted, you know, the city that adopted me, Manchester, with a track by Children of Zeus.
Yeah. Great record.
So this track's called All Night, and I mean, I love it because the group's dope. The bars, everything are ill, but also the beat samples one of my favorite hip hop beats of all time, the mighty You're a Customer by EPMD. Like, I don't care where you are, in the car, at a sporting event, on a corner, if you hear that dun it's just like, it's the realness. So yeah, let's get that one lined up.
Great choice.
Backseat watching Tyson on the telly. Do my slow dance looking handsome in my hele. Don't sleep, Connie is the nicest. My bar from the stories so fired up the prices. Now who you know now, rockin' feel a late summer. I shine like shea butter, my rhymes are straight gutter. Come and talk to me like a Jodeci song. And she's a queen but she know that she's wrong. And this is strictly for my steppers.
Time all spent, you gotta keep your mind on rent. It's just another mundane week. We don't get to play no more, moving like we was before. We lost the way, yeah. Show me how you do what you're doing, out on the floor, lost in your rhythm and time, oh yeah. It's been so long, it feels so new.
Strictly for the steppers, coats with goose feathers. Names in huge letters, got planes to choose weather. Get your suit measured to match with the new leather. I don't mess around, jet ski and dressing gown. Sending me love just like a Jeanne song. So come on, with the Zeus, we do it all night long, you know.
Pay no mind, honey, don't waste no.
That's a beautiful record. Beautiful record. So good.
Yeah, big salute, Children of Zeus. Like,
Yeah.
so happy to see them just going from strength to strength because the
Yeah.
talent is off the charts.
Yeah. Really good choice. You did remind me. We did say before we had a list of a few things we're going to talk about. Vinyl digitization. The reason we're talking about this, I think you came into I don't know if it was maybe last week or the week before Coffee and Donuts chat, and then I love Coffee and Donuts because we're sort of, we just play music and then you chat stuff and then people throw out comments or I throw a comment and then you see this conversation going on in the chat, and this was about vinyl digitization.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Why have you got into it? How are you doing it? How are you filing it? What's behind it?
Okay. I had the idea of doing it a few years ago as digital DJing became more of a thing. And obviously there's so many records back there. And I used to joke that if I was ever under quarantine or under house arrest, maybe I would start trying to digitize some of these records. And then the quarantine thing happened. So being a man of my word, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. I'd already got a phono preamp. Obviously you can go through your mixer, but I'd asked for a phono preamp for a present sometime previous, and the plan was, I'll do some of these because it'll make some of these records like more portable. I often wanted versions that are not just things that you can get on a digital platform. Like the way that I would describe it is, if you needed a digital copy of Wu-Tang Enter the 36 right now, you could, if you've bought it, I feel like you can go and get a copy. So if you bought it, you could go on SoulSeek or something and you could get a download, or if you want to buy it, Amazon MP3, whatever, iTunes, no problem. But if you want the instrumental of Worldwide by E-Rule, or that unreleased version of Big Pun, That's How We Roll, where they couldn't get the sample clearance, or the acapella of All Love by DITC or something, that's not on your digital platforms. Those things are on wax. Same with the kind of things that you find on 45s. So one day I'd sort of overthought exactly how to do it for a long time. Like, should I use a very high bit rate? Should I use a special high fidelity needle? And then one day, stuck in the house, I'm like, you know what? Start from the beginning. Well, not exactly the beginning, but just do one, get it started. And if you decide you want to change your approach partway through, then do it. But just do something. Start from where you are with what you have and all that. So so I go from a turntable into a preamp. The preamp goes into the computer via USB, and then I'll record the whole record in, break it up into separate files for each track. Label those up. I've actually enhanced my labeling approach because I broke a load of them. They came through in mono. I had to do them again. So you just had to kind of grit your teeth, start again with those ones.
Frustrating, isn't it?
Oh man, like it knocked me down for a while, but eventually, I got back on the horse and carried on. And so not only was I tagging the track name, the artist, the album and the track number, but then I was like, you know what, I'm getting producer info in there as well in the composer field. I'm putting the cover art in wherever I can find that. And then storing those as, so we're geeking out for all the people that like audio. I'm storing them as FLAC files, which is a lossless format, on my main hard drive of my desktop. I'm mostly a desktop person and secondarily a laptop person. So my big desktop with a big hard drive's got them all as FLAC lossless files. So basically sounding like the original recording. And then I've got a process where I'll turn them into MP3s. And the idea is that MP3s can live on a laptop, where laptops have got less storage. And the laptop is what you can carry around with Serato. I decided, based on, again, the idea of what's easily available digitally and what's not, to start with my hip hop 12 inches because they're hard to get. It's the primary part of my collection, really. When I eventually get to the end of those, and it's in sight, like it's not going to be like this week or anything, but the end is in sight, I think.
Okay.
When I've done those, it will either be it'll be a combination of picking out, maybe there'll be hip hop albums that are a bit more obscure, things that didn't make it to the digital formats, or things that have been deleted. I'll do some of those. Some of my 45s I'll definitely do, like doing a lot of the dance, getting a lot of the dance hall digital would be big. Getting the soul and funk digital would be big in case I ever got to really travel. I know that there's been at least one listener who said, you know, are you ever in New York? And I mean, I don't know if they're a promoter or anything, but I mean, I would love to DJ in New York. That would be like a lifetime dream. But I heard too many stories about records getting lost on the plane. So digital would be the way to do it. And so I got to digitize it. I did actually do a video. I did a Twitch stream about how to do some of the digitization following a similar process, which I think is still on my YouTube. So if you look up Air Adam on YouTube, there's a video on there about digitization. So I've slightly refined the process since then. But for anyone looking to get started, if you really don't know where to start, hopefully it would give you some ideas. I mean, I think we're always going to have wax. I'm not going to digitize this stuff and get rid of the records. That's for various reasons. That's just not going to happen. But it's flexibility.
But even that's interesting, isn't it? The fact that you can do a stream where you're digitizing your records. You know, and people will watch in or watch later because it is something interesting. I mean, I remember we watched Flip Out. He was just going through his new records and he's basically marking them up, BPMing them. And then he was just doing that. You know, it's like in his house as if we weren't there. And then suddenly he's got a hype train going. He doesn't even notice. Gets to like hype train level 2. He's like, oh shit, I've got a hype train going. I'm just here BPMing and you know, marking my records up.
Yeah.
Or someone like Don Champ, you know, he'll spend Monday listening to records and finding samples, and then on a Wednesday chopping them up on the MPC and stuff. You know, it's amazing what is out there and what is available in the sort of music field.
Totally.
But so that's interesting. That's as been. I keep saying the right. I can't pronounce it, but Behemoth. A lot of disk space. Certainly for the FLACs, and even for the MP3s these days. You know, the 320s. Take up a bit of space, don't they? Right, let's have one more bonus track, and then we'll finish off for today.
Decisions. Because I've got 3. I've got one that we've already mentioned, one that's pretty left field, and let's see what we're going to go with.
It's your choice, unless you want to leave it to the chat, of course. You know, if you want to do a 1, 2, 3.
Okay, okay. I've got them in my hand. You can't see them. 1, 2, or 3. What are people saying?
Let me see if I can do this. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, here we go. We can do 1, 2, 3. Hold on. I'm getting there. Right. I think there should be a poll started in the chat.
Nice.
If anyone's still watching, there seems to be a few people still watching, but if anyone's still watching and taking part, you've got 1, 2, 3. Cat in a box, you might want to vote if you haven't voted already. Oh, number 3's itching ahead. Oh, it looks like number 3's itching ahead at the moment. With that, I probably need to vote as well, actually. I'm going to go there. So I voted as well. Fat Wax always likes the number 2. Cut Glass number 2. 3's the magic number, and I think we're getting there. We've got about 10 seconds left. But again, this is stuff you can do on Twitch.
Yeah,
and you know, interactivity, and just you know, there's stuff that goes on there. And again, coming back to the sort of Mixcloud, is this sort of little bits of things like this that you can do, which obviously gamers have been doing for years, but obviously now we can start using it for that. It looks like a solid win, 55% for number 3.
Cool. So let me show you what you could have won. So number 1 was the Miami Vice theme, which big salute. Jan, I love Jan Hammer. I love all of that 80s Miami Vice, Coke 80s stuff. So yeah, that's a great record if you don't have it.
Very cheap.
Number 2 was Equinox Part 1 and Equinox Part 5 by Jean-Michel Jarre, one of my favorite artists, absolutely legend of the synths, still active today. Very lucky to see him up close at Blue Dot Festival a few years ago. But we're going to finish with Sunset Driver by the late great Michael Jackson, This was a track which I've heard it described. Somebody said that it was an offcut from Off the Wall. I've heard somebody say it was supposed to be on Thriller, and Michael Jackson's offcuts are killing other people's entire catalogs. This song, so ridiculous. I was glad to get this one on 45. I can't actually see easily which side is which because it's not labeled. So we'll see if I can get the right one on.
Okay.
And yeah, Sunset Driver, Michael
flip
Jackson.
It over if it's not. That's cool. Says he's feeling the need to moonwalk to the kettle.
Do it. Do not moonwalk from the kettle, though. You've got to be safe with hot fluids. But yeah, do it, man.
I could send Fat Wax the StreamYard link and we could watch it. Although last time we tried StreamYard, we had a bit of a technical issue with Fat Wax. We had a lot of echo until Jim Sharp helped us sort it out. But yeah, it's okay. Someone will make him tea. Right, I think we're probably there actually, but I'll set the rate in a minute. I think we're going to go and see DJ Cash Money TV. He's
nice.
So
That's
we'll set the rate in a minute. Before we do that, I'm just going to tell people about a couple of things. So first of all, what have you got coming up? When can we next see you online? What have you got coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Cool. So I'm going to be streaming twice this week. I'm on Thursday evening, 7 p.m. UK time with the Beats Only show. So that's where we go with the single camera, so you don't got to see my face, which some people would count as a bonus. And that's where we have no singers, no MCs. It's just all instrumentals. We just blend instrumentals, and it's always a perfect show for the UK listeners, it's a wind down after work.
Yeah.
For the international listeners, quite often it's the start of the day. And if people have got geekiness about the tracks or about production, we talk about it then. Then I'll be back on Sunday, noon UK time, vintage vinyl, that soul, funk, jazz, old reggae, that kind of thing. Every track on wax, every tune 30 years old or more. And that's a session that I've seen people really enjoy. It's very multi-generational. I know people that have their kids, their small children listen to it. I know people whose parents or even grandparents have listened to it, and they remember them old records and stuff like that. So it's always good fun. It's a nice Sunday lunchtime vibe, whether you're listening, having lunch, clean house, some perfect clean in the house music right there. And then Air Adam Podcast episode 161, the Manchester number, that's going to be coming out, all being well, Halloween. So watch out for that. Podcast.airadam.com, mixcloud.com/airadam podcast. And most of the places where podcasts can be found, but not Spotify, because I'm not trying to get in any trouble. So, yeah, that's all the stuff I got coming up in the near future. And I want to thank you for having me on. It's been really great to chat with you. I've absolutely loved it. So, yeah, thank you so much for
thank
letting
you so
come on the
much
show.
For coming on. I'm just going to set the raid, and then we'll make sure that's going to work. Yeah, that seems to be working. You mentioned Halloween. We've got the 45 Kids. You saw ZZ 45 earlier, who created 45 Kids. We've got the 45 Kids doing their Halloween special on Saturday on the 45 Kings channel from 8:30 a.m. So let's have a quick look at the video now. So yeah, if you're around Saturday morning, tune into the 45 Kings channel from 8:30 a.m. I've got 24-hour of Sevens raid before that, so they're going to raid in at 8:30, and I'm doing a thing with the Brazil DJs, covers version. They might raid in, so it might end up being sort of 2.5 days of records. But yeah, definitely tune in. Thanks everyone so much. Thanks Adam, it's been brilliant. If anyone wants to watch it back, it will be on Mixcloud probably tomorrow, and also YouTube. But thanks so much. Take it easy.
Thank you. Take care. Be safe. Peace.